20 books, babe. You can't be doing this. Hi, I'm Tally. Welcome or welcome back. Today we're going to go through my May wrap up, and I believe this is going to be like the earliest I've uploaded a wrap up after the month's finished, so I'm quite excited. I've 20 books to go through, and well, 19 and a like bonus chapter which I logged on Storygraph, so it shows up as a book. And I really got to rethink this wrap up situation, because honestly, the thought of sitting here and talking about that many books, oh no, I don't have it in me. So this might be my last like monthly wrap up in this situation. We shall see. But as always, I'm having a fabulous reading month. I think I'm either just full of like everyone can have high stars, or I'm just picking really good books this year. But generally this year's going really well. I think my average rating for this year is 4.31. I just don't even know what's happening. So as always, I'm going to go from my lowest rated to my highest rated for the month, and starting with a 2.75, which was Fracture by J.D. Baker. I read this for my dark romance reading vlog. Go check it out, or this side, I can't remember. This was certainly interesting. I mean, 2.75, it was entertaining, but I wouldn't like be recommending it or rereading it or anything along those lines. It was definitely eye-opening, especially because I'm trying to discover what dark romance was, and I don't know if this was a great example to go in on or not. But yeah, my full thoughts in the reading vlog. And then back on that reading vlog, I had a 3.5 with Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. This was really, it was really entertaining. I will give it that. Again, I don't know if it was a good example of dark romance, but I did have fun. It was ridiculous. It was not realistic in any capacity, but it had me laughing out loud quite a lot. So, you know, I will read the second one when it comes out as well, because I don't know, the author, she had me, so we'll definitely give the second book a try. And then my other 3.5 book for the month was Infinity Alchemist by Kaysen Calendar. This is the first in the Infinity Alchemist series. It's a queer YA, and it's a queer YA fantasy book, and it's set in a world with magic, and magic is kind of used as a it's been like commercialized, and it's used as a way to create like the elite in society, and then the downtrodden everyone else kind of thing. And I thought this was really fun. It was really entertaining. I enjoyed it's like a poly relationship, a love triangle. I really appreciated that. For me, a love triangle has to be all three are involved. Otherwise, it's not a triangle. It's just a corner, in my opinion. So, but yeah, I appreciated that. I appreciated the gender fluidity for it. It was definitely a book with a queerdom as a norm, which I obviously appreciate in a book. It's nice to have books that are just chill about things like that. The reason it was a 3.5 and not higher is just it was a tad long, and there was a section in the middle that I was just like, this could be wrapping up a bit more or a bit faster. The book was 385 pages, and I honestly feel like it could have done with having, like, for me, like 100 pages, up to 100 pages taken out, just to help it flow quicker. But I did enjoy it. I love this author. I love their writing style, and this was their first foray into fantasy, and I think they did really well. And there is going to be a sequel out, I think, this year, so I'm excited to pick that up and see what happens with our characters next. And then I had 2 3.75 books for the month. So we'll start with When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vida Keeley. This was such a good book. It's a queer kind of like, no, not steampunk. It's set in the 1920s in New York, and it's set at like a kind of freak show on Coney Island. There's it's like a fun fair, amusement park. I'm trying to think of what the correct word is. And they have like a freak show there, and they managed to capture a merman, and he's going to be the main attraction when Luna Park opens for the season. And they hire the man that runs the circus show, hires Benji, who is a immigrant to New York. He came across on a boat that sunk, and he managed to survive and make it across. And he hires him to build a tank, like an ironwork tank, to keep the merman in. And then Benji ends up getting a job at the fair to look after the merman, basically. And some romance blossoms, and it's got some wonderful conversations about, I mean, this is set in the 1920s, so it's got some really good conversations surrounding like racism at the time, possibly still now, the idea of like servitude, and how people who are other, as in queer, have to hide who they are, the homophobia, etc. And I just think it was really, really well done. If you like The Shape of Water, The Greatest Showman, what was that, A Big Fish, I think that's the kind of vibes you're going to get from this, so you should definitely check this out. I loved this. I did it as an audio, but the physical and like digital copy have illustrations in that the author did, so I really want to get myself a physical copy, so when I reread it I can look at the illustrations. And yeah, it was such a fun ride. I do worry that it's going to be a book that I don't like think of in a year's time, so we shall see. And then my next 3.75 is actually my lowest rated Ali Hazelwood book. So over the last few months I've been reading every Ali Hazelwood book in publication order. I have my reading vlog with all of my full thoughts and reviews for these books coming out within the next week. I've got to it's a big one to edit, and so I won't talk too much about the Ali Hazelwood books I've read, but this is Cruel Winter with You, which is one of the Amazon original short stories for their collections that they do. And I just personally think that Ali Hazelwood thrives in a larger book, like larger page count, in which she can really develop the characters and the yearning between them. But this was quite fun. Then we get on to my 4-star reads for the month. I just picked this up on a whim. It was available as an audio from my library, and I just needed to quickly grab an audio because I was about to go to work, and I want all of the audios that I had lined up for the month were like longer ones, and I just wanted one that I could be like thoughts off a little bit. So I grabbed this one, The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. And this was actually so fun and so ridiculous. It's set at Christmas time, so it wasn't the best time to be listening to it or like reading it, but we follow two authors who work in like the mystery crime genre. So we have Maggie, who is well known for her like cozy mystery crimes, and then we have Ethan, who does what she refers to as leather jacket crime books. And like the authors have their leather jackets and like arms crossed on the back page. So he does like the crimes that are full of like car chases and guns and stuff, and she does like the cozy. And she is of the opinion that they have like this academic rivalry. He has no clue of an academic rivalry at all. He just thinks they have a fun little flirtation going on, and he doesn't realise that she thinks they actually dislike each other. Very Ali Hazelwood coded. And they get invited one Christmas to a mystery, like a mystery fan has invited them to her home in England for the season for Christmas, and they both work for the same publisher, and their agent is like, you don't want to miss this up. So they go and discover it's their favorite crime author. She's a kind of like a Agatha Christie type crime author in this world, and she invites them to her home, and she has this mixed bag of people there. She has her family, but then she has like her lawyer and the doctor and a detective, and she goes missing, and Maggie and Ethan work out that it's probably that she hasn't been killed, which is what everyone thinks. She's probably like setting up a locked room mystery for them to solve, and it is really fun. I think this would work well as a film, and the banter between the two is quite entertaining. My next 4-star is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. So this was the last one that I read for my dark romance exploration vlog. I also read like a bonus chapter that was set like a year after or something. I haven't rated that, but I'll throw that in with this one. Out of 3 dark romance I read, this one was, in my opinion, the best one. I have a very kind of love-hate relationship with this. There were so many things I was like, I don't like this, but ultimately I did like the book, which is a really strange place to be. This is the first in a series of the series is called Never After, and they're like dark romance books loosely based on different like fairy tales, or yeah. So this first one, I don't think they're interconnected. This first one, Hooked, was obviously based on Peter Pan. I love Peter Pan, and I love Peter Pan reimaginings or retellings. I've not read enough of them, and actually I really, really enjoyed all of the nods to Peter Pan throughout, and like the naming of characters that were nods to Peter Pan. And did I like the relationship between the two like main characters? No. Did I like the book overall? I think yes. I don't know, like, so our main character James, also known as Hook, he's a like gangster. He runs like this drug trade. He owns a nightclub which is called the Jolly Roger. He is well known for being someone you don't mess with if you don't want to end up like fillet of fish, and then we have Wendy, who is she's the daughter of a businessman who she doesn't realize is actually basically a gangster as well. And they recently moved into the town where Hook is, and she isn't aware, but her dad is like trying to encroach on his drug trade. And Wendy is sweet and innocent and a virgin and and she comes across Hook, and Hook's been working on this like 10-year revenge plan for her dad, and he decides that she's the perfect person for him to enact it. He's gonna like seduce her and then use her to get back at her dad, and he does that, and they end up like falling for each other, even when he's kidnapped her and kept her hostage in a little bit of a Stockholm syndrome thing. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a bit of a classic dark romance plot, but I don't know, because this is like my first foray into it. I will be picking up the rest of the books in this series though. And then for my 4.25, we'll start with Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. This is her most recent release. It came out literally like the end of May. And this is a 4.25 for me. I will have my full thoughts in the Ali Hazelwood vlog that will be coming out soon. But just to say, I tried really hard, but I couldn't get behind this couple as easily as I've got behind other couples. And it's not the age gap. It was she's in her early 20s, and she's pining for this man for 3 years, even though all he does is say he's not interested. And I'm just like, babe, you are in like the prime of summer romance. Why are you wasting your time on a man that has explicitly told you he's not interested? Obviously, we know he is as a reader. But yeah, like I prefer it when I think I prefer it when it's the male love interest doing all of the running. And this was a very different change of pace for Ali Hazelwood, because it was the first time where the female love interest, like our heroine, was doing all of the running and all of the pursuing. It was a very interesting change of pace. And my next 4.25 was Blood on Her Tongue by Johanna van Vern. So this is a queer historical horror. Is it? Yeah, a queer historical horror. And as with her other book, which again I gave like I think 4.5, which was My Darling Dreadful Thing, this is set in the 1800s in the Netherlands. And we follow Lucy and Sarah, and they are twins. And Lucy is like the wallflower twin. She is just kind of in the shadow of her more outgoing sister Sarah. One day she's like informed that Sarah is unwell, so she goes to visit Sarah. And prior to her she goes to visit Sarah at her like marital home where she lives with her husband. And Sarah has fallen quite unwell, and no one's quite sure what it is. It's kind of like the beginning part really gave me like Mexican Gothic vibes, but that's where the similarities definitely end. And prior to becoming ill, a body, like a fossilized body, was found in the bog on Sarah and her husband's land. And Sarah became absolutely obsessed with the woman in the bog. And then she becomes ill, and she kind of has like ramblings, and in her diary she talks about how the woman in the bog has come to take over her and things. And Lucy's really confused, and she wants to look after her. And Sarah does have a history of mental health breakdowns, which have obviously been treated pretty poorly considering the time frame in which this is set. And then during her visit, Sarah starts to become quite adamant that she is being possessed by something. And then she starts to become quite hungry, and human food doesn't seem to be fitting the bill for her. This was such a good book. I really enjoyed it. I think that Johanna van Vern just writes gothic atmosphere so well, and this is brilliant. It really was. Now let's do my 4.5s. I had 2 4.5s this month. The first is another Ali Hazelwood book. Obviously there's going to be a lot of them on this list, and I'm just going to rapid fire through the Ali Hazelwood books. Go check out the vlog when it comes out. Subscribe so you don't miss it when it comes out. But I listen to, it's currently an audio only, which is Toucan Play, and this is like a short audio. It's about 4 hours long. And unlike Cruel Winter with You, this had like double the space in which to build the characters, which I loved a lot more. The two main characters are also like game developers, which I really enjoyed. It's like the first one publication wise that wasn't really about science or chess, or there was a chess one, but yeah, so I really enjoyed being able to like delve into the world of game development and watch this relationship blossom. It was also a forced proximity one as well, which I enjoyed. And then my other 4.5 was The Library of Lost Things by Laura Taylor Namey. And this is a YA contemporary romance, and it was so fun. So we followed Darcy, who is in her final year of school, or I don't know, she's in the point where she's like applying for college, and she has a secret in that her mum is an absolute hoarder. And so Darcy's entire life is like trying to juggle keeping this secret, making sure no one finds out, so she doesn't get like taken away from her mum. Her mum does hold a job, and no one like in the outside world would ever think that she lives in such a hoarding way. But she obviously is not very good with her money. She spends all of her money on items that she's going to hoard, buying things in bulk and stuff. So Darcy works in a little local bookshop to try and pay their bills, try and get by. So she has a lot going on, and the only one that really knows about any of this is her best friend, and they're like full on ride or die best friends. Darcy is also a huge literature lover, and she can like remember lines from like Shakespeare plays off the top of her head and all this. Like, she is so immersed in books and literature, and all she likes to do is just read. She's quite like quiet and introverted. And then there's this guy Asher, who is the year above her, and he is dating someone in Darcy's year, so she is aware of him, and she's aware that he used to be a pilot, or he intended on being a pilot, and he had a car accident, which put like his career goals to the side. But she doesn't have anything to do with him. She just like knows of him on the peripheral. And then she starts kind of seeing him around at parties and things, and then he walks into her bookshop, and it turns out he's working in the like town hall opposite, and he decides he's going to come and spend his break times in a bookshop because it's nice and quiet. And they start to get to know one another, and they start to be able to trust one another and tell each other things and really like open up, and they kind of become really, really good friends, and then it builds from there. And it was such a lovely little romance, and I want to read more by this author. I had to look, and they have quite a back catalogue that I can dive into. But yeah, every character in this was so well built, and like felt like real people, and their relationships to one another felt truly thought out, and I just really enjoyed it. Gosh, now we're on to our 5 stars, and when I say last month I was like, you get a star, you get a 5 star, and this month is that month actually. But a lot of them I'm not really going to talk about because they are Ali Hazelwood. Turns out, when I decided to investigate whether I like romance, turns out I really like Ali Hazelwood. So I have 5 of her books that I gave 5 stars to. I'll just kind of rapid fire them, I guess. So we have Check and Mate, which is her first YA book, and this is set in the world of chess. I really enjoyed the main character, Mallory. She's kind of standoffish and kind of dislikable, and she carries way too much on her mental plate, and I appreciated that as a main character. We then have Bride, which is Ellie Hazelwood's first foray into fantasy, and again, I think she did so well. I genuinely think that anything she turns her hand at, she can do. In this, we follow a vampire kind of princess, I guess, who has to marry a alpha werewolf to try and carry out a bit of a like peacekeeping between the two tribes, because they are notoriously constantly at war, and she has her own reasons for wanting to go into the werewolf territory. And I really enjoyed how she is so like emotionally void, and so entirely like of the belief that she is unlovable, because that's kind of how vampires are brought up. And she goes into this world of werewolves where they're very family orientated, and there's mates involved. And I think this is a fantastic intro into fantasy for people who usually only read contemporary romance, and I think Ali Hazelwood just did it fantastically. I cannot wait to read the second one to this. It comes out in September, I believe. Dead End was a chunky boy for starters. Whilst this didn't give me what I wanted it to give me, I still loved it and I appreciated it for what it was, and it was a 5-star read. I thought it was going to be a book about, and I don't think I was wrong in assuming this, I think this was very much how it was represented. I thought this was going to be a book about kink exploration, and I wanted that. I wanted to read that. I wanted to read Ali Hazelwood do that. But it wasn't really a book about kink exploration. It was very much a book about trust, which is very important in kink exploration, but I also wanted the kink side as well. But again, I love this. I love the characters. 10 out of 10. Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Loved this. Absolutely loved this. Again, we have our female main character who is very kind of downtrodden and lets people, well, not lets, but is often kind of pushed around. Like she's very pushed around by people around her. She starts dating Jack, and he helps her learn to be more assertive in herself. And that's what I really loved about this, that he didn't do it for her, he helped her find it within herself. I also appreciate Elsie's disability representation as well. She has diabetes and she has a implant or something, and that's never treated as like a negative. Jack never like looks down on it, obviously, because he's the love interest, and I just appreciated that in a book. Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I don't mean to spoil my vlog, but my favourite Ali Hazelwood book. I've noticed that all of my favourite Ali Hazelwood female main characters are the ones that are kind of technically unlikable. I'm not saying that that's reflective of me, but Rue is very hard to read. She's quite emotionally withdrawn. She has her own reasons, and this book very much dives into the like carrying the emotional weight of childhood abuse with you. So check the content warnings on this. There is a fantastic author's note at the beginning that goes through what will be discussed. I don't know. I feel like Rue is kind of possibly, in my opinion, autistic coded as well, which I appreciated, enjoyed. I don't know. And this is the first book that's been dual POV. So we get Eli's POV as well. And I think that was such a good choice because Rue is so closed off and so emotionally stretched. Like, she finds it so hard to kind of acknowledge and name her emotions. So it's great to see her through his eyes, and I really loved that. And this actually has a second one, which is the problematic summer romance, which follows their wedding a few years on. But yeah, these were my favorite Ali Hazelwood couple. Just really are. That's it, really. And then, to be less kicking my legs, I read and gave 5 stars to Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This was the first I've read by Octavia E. Butler, and I need to read more. I need to go through all of her back catalogue. Let me know which one I should pick up next. I'm leaning towards Parable of the Sower. So in this, we follow Dana, who is in 1976, and then something happens and she finds herself in 1815, and she meets this little boy Rufus, she saves his life. He's drowning at the time. And then she keeps being drawn back to him in time when his life is in danger, which tends to be a lot. And her time spent in that era depends. It's no like set goal or anything. And she can spend days in the 1800s. She could spend days in 1815 with Rufus, or like the 1800s. But it's only been a few minutes in her actual time frame in the 70s. And this is such an amazing book. Dana is black, so when she goes back, she's treated as a slave, and there's so much discussions on how easily or not how easily, but how quickly she just kind of accepts that way of life when she's there. There was a lot of parts in this that made me just like close the book for a minute and just stare at the wall and think. So yeah, I thought it was very, very well written. I think that we do have to bear in mind, I was reading some reviews, and we do have to bear in mind that this was written in the 80s. 79 it was written. So I saw some people complaining that like the dialogue felt a little stilted and not how people actually talk. But I do think that we have to bear in mind that dialogue amongst people would have been very different in the 70s to how it is now, and the writing will reflect that as well. But yeah, I thought this was fabulous. I understand why people are such a huge fan. Now, my final 5-star of the month and the final book I'm going to talk about is The City of Lost Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And I loved this. I mean, it was a 5-star. It's the first in a series. Mr. Adrian needs to calm down with how quickly he's writing this series, because I've only just discovered him, and there's so many books and he's still writing so many books. But yeah, this was amazing, and I cannot wait to read the next one. I don't have book 2. I've got book 3, but I don't physically have book 2, so I've got to get hold of that so I can read that. This follows multiple characters in this city. It's a city that was quite rife in like sin, I guess, and it's been occupied by a religious puritanical type group of people. We just basically follow like loads of different effectively criminals as they all individually, for their own reasons, end up joining the rebellion against the Palisons and or Palisons, and there's also a underlying horror of these like old god creatures in the woods. And I don't know, I just flipping loved it, and apparently I can't talk about it. I loved it, but I can't talk about it. There we go. Look at this gorgeous cover as well. But yeah, I desperately need to get book 2 so that I can read that, because this was just so good. So there we have it, the 19 books I read in May. I think that this wrap up wasn't as long as I tend to go, because honestly I'm at that point where I just don't really want to spend an hour and a half talking about these books. If you've made it to the end, please give this video a like. Consider leaving a emoji representing your favorite Ali Hazelwood book. Oh yeah. Subscribe if you want to, and I really appreciate you spending time with me today. Thank you for being here, friends. Bye.